They put me in a residential school when I was 6 years old. Forced me from my family and all I'd ever known. I cried out for my mama, but she could not hear me. I was 200 miles away in Chupanacadie. They tried to break my spirit, I wouldn't let them see me cry. They held my head underwater until I almost died. I can still hear screaming deep inside of me, and I will always bear the scars of Chupanacadie.
My name is Lottie, and this was the name given to me. But I was born Indian, IRS 47. I was a number. I had this Christian name. I was born Indian. I had this Shubi number. But I also had another name. I'm Thunder Woman. That was my name. I left one residential school, and then I entered into a boarding school, a convent. And this, I was there for another 3 years, and then instead of going home, I ended up getting a one-way ticket to Boston. I never felt like I belonged anywhere, and I didn't like being Indian. From where we came from was the spirit world, a star, and it was like you were born into this world and through our parents, and then you live this life on this earth. And through this, sometime, somewhere, the connection was lost. So these children came back to wherever they're not fitting in, not belonging. And they were stripped mostly of like their own identity, their own spirituality. And some of them came out quite heartless. For a long time, that's how I felt, like I had no heart, I had nothing. But just this sadness. They used children as their pawns in this. It was like a Cold War, some kind of a psychological warfare that was going on, I found. And it was children that they used. The sickness that we brought back was physical and emotional, mental, spiritual. We came back with this. And we brought it back to our communities. We passed it on to our families, community members, to our children. I couldn't protect myself. I couldn't protect my children. I was at a loss. And my husband was alcoholic, and I became alcoholic trying to catch up to him. I ended up placing my children for protective custody. So when I was married the second time, I says, I won't tolerate none of this anymore. I ended up going to AA, psychiatric counseling. I was going to doctors. I had out-of-body experiences. All of these things were happening all at once. It wasn't like until after I left Boston, I came home, these same dreams and different visions were happening. I had nobody to talk to and nobody to guide me. And I didn't trust nobody. I couldn't tell nobody these things because everything kind of related back to the residential school. And even then, there were things I was told and I was shown, and I knew things before they happened. So in the residential school, I learned to keep quiet about it. One of the girls told the nun that I was a witch because of this, or something like that. I don't know how kids are, but they says, oh, she knows these things, she's a witch. The nun, that was Sister Roberta, she sent me to church to pray. She told me I was an evil, wicked child. I was going to burn in hell. What I think I was lacking or missing was like a spiritual guide. It's good to have social workers and all of these other people, but a lot of them, unless they're native, don't seem to understand what our people are going through. Part of my job, I go into the schools, working with the residential school survivors and that. I try not to get into too much of my story or the physical or whatever abuses. I just present the facts that are there. So I talked a little bit about the beatings, being locked up or whatever happened. This kid says, boy, he says, I would beat them up. And he says, I would run away. You know, and he said, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you beat them up? Why didn't you go home? When I was there, the nun used to tell me, you're here because nobody wants you. So I thought of, like, if I run away, where am I going to go? They're only going to bring me back. They're going to beat me. They're going to shave my head or whatever. And I remember my sister ran away. And I was in the kitchen when they told me she ran away. I went after her. And this was like, instead of coming in after for supper, they ran over the hill. So I ran down the hill and I dragged her back. They brought in those other 3 girls that night. And these girls were beaten. They had their head shaves. But I said, you know, where are you going to run to? For those that survived the alcohol, the drugs, and all of these things, the big cities or wherever they went to, the ones that survived, came back, I don't exactly see them as survivors, but they have a story to tell. These are like messengers to our people. Our people need to know, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you beat them up? Why didn't you go home? And he says, I would run away.
Unfortunately, the thing about trauma is that resistance is usually met with more power, more force, more threat, so that ultimately folks have to yield, which is the ultimate goal, to have them give in and go along. That's how oppression does its work. It whittles away people's ability to resist.
And it was children that they used.
Children coming into the schools as good me's, they were abused where they became bad me's, and then they left feeling non-me. You take away from a child, through abuse, that sense of future. What else do we expect from them when they go back into that world? Language was gone. Ceremony was gone. Clothing was gone. Everything about them that struck with the identity of being Aboriginal was gone.
We need to go back to our ceremonies. We need to go into our sweat lodges, our sun dances, our Yuwipi. We need to go back to our language.
And I guess we got to turn back to Mother Earth and to nature for some of the answers, and to our sacredness.